Welcome back, everyone, to the cigar smoke-filled back room. I am Doug with Tusk Consulting. TuskConsulting@gmail.com. TuskConsulting@gmail.com. If you are a pro-gun Republican and you need political consulting help, drop me a line. We'll see what we can do for you. If you are not a pro-gun Republican, you don't exist. In our ongoing video series about things that are not discussed enough in politics, or at least not discussed honestly enough, today we're going to be talking about absentee voting. And before we get too far into the video today, our cigar of the day is a Monte Cristo, a good sized one, and the bottle of the day is a Woodinville Rye. This is apparently made in Washington State. I hope they do whiskey a lot better than they do politics in Washington State. Not shabby. Again, not sponsors to the program, but it'd be nice. Anyhow, absentee voting. So, absentee voting differs from conventional voting in that it is before election day and not at the actual polling place. So it's an alternative form of voting. And before we get too far into this, something I want to emphasize: however you choose to vote, most people live in a state that allows some kind of absentee voting, early voting, etc. Most people do. Whether you vote on election day, or you vote by mail, or you vote early in person, whatever, please just vote. Okay? Just vote. It's really important. Real important. But we're here to talk about absentee voting, so let's focus on that. Depending on your state, there are multiple kinds of absentee voting. Could be. I'm in Ohio. I know Ohio's system the best. So my examples will be from here. So essentially for us, there's two fundamental branches here. There's absentee by mail, and there's what we call early in-person absentee voting. So what are the pros and cons of each of these? Well, the absentee by mail, which is what most people think of when they absentee voting. Oh yeah. You send a letter to the Board of Elections, and they send you a ballot, and you fill it, and you mail it back in. Okay. And yes, you do have to submit some kind of an application form. And you could do that by mailing it to the Board of Elections, or you could drop it off at the Board of Elections. Then, when they've processed your application, they will then mail your absentee ballot out to you via the Postal Service. Exactly when it arrives, that's tough to say. They do actually try and work with the Postal Service and figure out the best way to have things ready for the post office so that it goes as smoothly as it can. But it's not like this is not coming to you with a tracking number or something like that. This isn't priority mail or whatever. It's literally first class mail. So it gets to you when it gets to you. Usually a few days. Once you get it, you open it up, you fill out your ballot, put it in an envelope, seal it up, and then you can either mail it back to the Board of Elections, or you can physically deliver it to the Board of Elections. That is the conventional way people think of when they talk about voting by mail. There's also what we here in Ohio call early in-person absentee voting. And for the record, here in Ohio, absentee voting starts Tuesday, October 8th. So if you're an Ohioan, especially a pro-gun Republican Ohioan, you can start voting as early as Tuesday, October 8th. Early in-person voting means that starting on the 8th of October, you can walk into the Board of Elections and say, I want to vote. You don't have to wait till November 5th. Do not have to. Go into the Board of Elections on October 8th or after. Check your Board of Elections for their early vote center hours. You go in there, show them your ID, your picture ID. That's important too. Show them your picture ID. Say, hey, this is me. I'm that person there. Do your signature, all that, and you can go and vote. And that's awfully nice. And it gets done all in one day. There's not this, oh, I have an application, I got to send that in, and then wait for the ballot to come to me, and then fill it out, and then send it back. No. It's one stop, and you're done. You're done, okay? In, out, boom. If it's a very busy day at the early vote center, which probably on October 8th it will be very busy, you may have to stand in line a little bit. So it's maybe not as convenient as just walking out to your mailbox, but you're sure that it gets done. It gets done in time. So why should you vote this way? Back in the old days, if you didn't want to vote on Election Day, which is November 5th this year, back in the old days, you had to provide a reason why you wanted to vote by absentee ballot. And there was a list of excuses, reasons that were accepted. For instance, if you were a college student that was, living in the dorms at some, university far away from home, okay, fine. Or if you were a member of a cloistered clergy, or et cetera, et cetera. That's not true today. We have essentially what's called, no-fault absentee. For the record, not a lawyer. No. But we have essentially no-fault absentee. Anybody can ask for an absentee ballot. You don't have to have an excuse. It's fine. Why should we do it this way? Well, a few reasons. The number one is that it banks your vote. What do I mean by that? If you go on October 8th or 9th or whatever, but early in-person vote, or even do it by mail, it's done. It's over with. You don't have to worry about what the weather's going to be like on November 5th. Look, there are parts of this country that can experience snow in the first week of November. I live in one of those places. Or of course, it doesn't have to be that. There could be all kinds of your kid gets sick, or you get in a car accident, or your car breaks down, or big project came up at work. Now you got to work overtime, and you end up having to be at work from before the polls open and staying at work until after the polls close that day. You just didn't have a time. There's no time. If you do the early in-person voting, and yes, for the record, there are some weekend hours that are sprinkled in there too here in Ohio for early in-person voting. It's resolved, it's done, it's over with. Your vote's gonna be counted, and it's all taken care of before Election Day. Really nice. Second reason. We are all thoroughly annoyed at this point, and only going to get more so, with the text messages, and the emails, and the phone calls, and the literature pieces coming in the mail, right? And of course the TV ads and streaming ads and blah, 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 from all the campaigns and all the issues. It's annoying. It annoys me, and I'm a political animal. I'm sure it annoys you. Well, here's the deal. If you get your ballot turned in, whether you do it by mail and you turn it into the Board of Elections, or you do the early in person, once the Board of Elections says, hey, Dougie's voted, guess what happens? The smart campaigns take your name off their call list, off their email list, off their text message list. And instead, they take the time, effort, energy, and cost, resources, that they would have used to contact you to remind you to go vote. Because if that, they're hoping to get your vote. But there's no reason to do that anymore. You already voted. They take that energy and they devote it to another person, probably somebody like you, because they've modeled that you're somebody that might support them, in order to turn out that lower propensity voter to hopefully get the agenda, get more votes for their candidate, their cause, their issue, whatever. Now, wouldn't it be great if there's something you could do that would cause the number of text messages and emails and junk mail to decrease? And there is. Absentee vote. Early in person being my personal favorite, but whatever. Once you get it done, the smart campaigns will stop bothering you. Additionally, absentee voting allows on election night for an early lead. What do I mean by that? So when we're all sitting around on election night watching the results roll in, we are hoping that it's not going to be a late night. that the result will be obvious early on. Not like what, say in 2000 with the whole, Bush-Gore, Florida recount disaster, right? No. We want a clear victory, preferably before we go to bed, okay? We don't always get that. If people like you, pro-gun Republicans, turn out and early in-person and absentee vote in big numbers, it's got all the other benefits we talked about. And here's the deal. When the polls close in your state and the media puts their numbers up on the screen, the first numbers that come out, if you pay attention, you'll catch this. It says 0 precincts reporting. 0. Goose egg. Nada. But there's already numbers on there. How, if no precinct is reported, how are there numbers of votes on the screen? The answer is the early in-person and absentee votes. Because the first number is reported. And if our candidates have a big lead coming out of that, it's going to be an early night. Okay? It's going to be obvious which direction that election's going. So if you like staying up till 3 a.m. or staying up for the next 3 weeks trying to figure out who the heck won the election, I guess you don't have to do an early in-person vote. But if you prefer to get to bed early, and not have to stay up, then, encourage your friends to do early in-person voting. But look, I reiterate, whether you vote absentee, by mail, or early in person, or even on election day, just vote, okay? Now, some criticisms of absentee voting. There are criticisms. We're going to talk about them. The most common is that all you're doing is cannibalizing your election day vote. And this is a criticism that can be at least partially true. People that would have voted on election day now just voting earlier. Okay, yeah, maybe. But again, we get to focus on the lower propensity voters by getting our high propensity voters out of the way in the first week. And then we got 3 more weeks to focus on low propensity voters. So A, that's smart. And B, even if, so what? The left has been using this very tactic I'm talking about today for years. When your opponent runs a play that works well, run the play yourself. Don't just let them do it. You run it. See how it works for you. That's what we're doing here. We're turning their own play against them. Frankly, I think that's smart. We don't do unilateral disarmament, okay? They want to do early in-person voting? We'll do early in-person voting. And now let's see who does the best at it, okay? We'll do this on an equal footing. Another criticism you sometimes hear is that people say, election day for me is a social event, right? I get to go down to the polling place, all my friends are the poll workers, oh gosh, it's been so long since I've seen you, how are the grandkids, blah, 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 chit chat. And I get that. I do. There's nothing keeping you from going down to the polling place and saying hi to your friends anyway, right? Okay, they basically, hey, you can vote. Well, no, I already voted. I'm going to get out of the way. Obviously, if it's a long line, don't hold people up. Please. Don't obstruct the business of the voting place. But there's lots of social occasions. You don't have to stand in line on election day in order to see your friends, okay? In this current day and age, it is better to vote early so that you don't have to worry about what the weather's like, so that you don't get as annoyed with all the campaigning materials, etc. Just vote early. It's easy. It really is. At least in Ohio, it's very easy to do. It's secure. They require identification, etc., etc. It's a perfectly fine way to do it. So in summary, well, yes, you can vote on November 5th. And look, if that's the only way you're going to vote, fine. But you should at least consider the options of absentee by mail or early in-person voting. It is good to vote early. It is a valid and effective method, and I seriously do encourage everybody, especially here in Ohio, my state, that take advantage of this. Let's beat the Democrats, and especially the anti-gun Democrats, the worst. Let's beat them using their own tactic. Again, I am Doug with Tusk Consulting. TuskConsulting@gmail.com, TuskConsulting@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody. See you in the next one.